And all right, Nicolette Fulton's going to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, David, and good afternoon, Rotarians. Well, today it is my honor and privilege to introduce my good friend and colleague, Ken Waldrop. Ken has served as the executive director at CFPUA since June 2021. He has more than 31 years of experience in the water and wastewater industry. I know he looks far younger than that. Before coming to CFPUA, he was the assistant director at the City of Raleigh Public Utilities Department, otherwise known as Raleigh Water, that serves the majority of Wake County. Ken is a licensed professional engineer with a bachelor's degree in nuclear engineering. I've told you guys he's smart. From NC State University, a master's degree in public administration from NC Central University, and recently he became a proud fellow Seahawk when he obtained his master's degree in business administration from UNCW. Now, Ken's reputation is well known throughout North Carolina and nationally. He is a former member of the North Carolina Environmental Management Commission and was the 2021 chair of the North Carolina section of the American Water Works Association and North Carolina Member Association of the Water Environment Federation. In short, he is very passionate about what he does. He currently serves on 2 national industry boards, the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies and the Water Utility Council of the American Water Works Association, where he spends many a day advocating for our local community and making sure that every day we have clearly better water.
Well, those are extremely kind words. I very much appreciate it and hope I live up to the very kind introduction. I want to thank you for welcoming me and inviting me back and giving me an opportunity to discuss CFPUA's priorities and our projects. Today, with any luck, there we go. Today, we're going to talk about the single most important and expensive project that we've ever undertaken, the replacement of the Southside wastewater treatment plant. This presentation will briefly touch on the topic of wastewater nationally and the history of this particular plant. Then we'll dive into the details of the project itself and why we need it so badly. Finally, we'll discuss the impact on our community and our ratepayers. So CFPUA, as a reminder, is a regional water and wastewater provider for the city of Wilmington, most of New Hanover County, and I'm proud to say, as of September 30th, the town of Wrightsville Beach. We are a special purpose unit of local government, which means we are not for profit, but we do operate ourselves like a business with an 11-person governing body, almost $1 billion worth of depreciated or depreciable infrastructure to maintain. A budget this year of $129 million for operating. The replacement cost new for this infrastructure that serves all of us is estimated to be $6.5 billion. At the end of June, we had 104 active capital projects with a total value of $577 million, of which $203 million had been spent or was encumbered. And we have a 10-year capital improvement plan for an additional $6.12 million planned through years 2026 to 2035. Now, we provide 2 things to our customers: good, clean drinking water, which I'm so glad to see you have here, and we collect and dispose of the wastewater that we all create. On the wastewater side of our business, we collect it through 166 pump stations that each have their own drainage areas. And those pump stations relay that wastewater through 1,162 miles of underground pipe and almost 24,000 manholes to one of two wastewater treatment plants, the North Side Wastewater Treatment Plant or the South Side Wastewater Treatment Plant. Now, South Side, its service area receives wastewater from some very familiar locations: the port, the hospital, Midtown, Pine Valley, Myrtle Grove, Monkey Junction, Silver Lake, River Lights, Sunset Park, and even parts of downtown right in this area. He can receive wastewater from other parts of our service area, including Wrightsville Beach with some minor modification to valves. Now, the history of wastewater in Wilmington follows a very familiar pattern. There was a private company established in 1901 providing sewage collection on Burnt Mill Creek. The city of Wilmington purchased that company in 1912. And from the 1920s to the 1960s, there was a series of outfalls with some basic primary treatment created throughout our community, throughout the town. In the 50s and 60s, 1950s and 60s, there was a national movement to better manage our wastewater. And the first true wastewater treatment plant, Northside, was constructed near the confluence of Burnt Mill Creek and Smith Creek in 1970, 55 years ago. The second plant, Southside, followed 2 years later. By the mid to late 2000s, Northside needed significant renewal, and it was completely renovated, just in time for the consolidation and creation of CFPUA. There was a series of environmental disasters in the 50s and 60s that led to this environmental renaissance, a focus at the federal level on legislation from Congress. The most important to our conversation today is the Clean Water Act of 1972. In addition to creating a goal of removing pollution through discharge permits, this legislation created structured industrial wastewater management and biosolids disposal. In those early years, Congress offered millions of dollars in grants to communities like Wilmington to construct the first modern wastewater treatment plants. Those federal grants slowly disappeared over time and are no longer in place. The Southside plant is a common mid-century design. The facility opened in 1972 and was subsequently expanded in 1986. It's seen a variety of improvements and rehabilitation projects over the last 50 years, all designed to maximize its lifespan and optimize its treatment potential. But treatment expectations and treatment technology have significantly changed over the last 50 years. Much of the nation's wastewater infrastructure is now due for complete replacement. The American Society of Civil Engineers looks at our nation's infrastructure, and it gives the nation's drinking water infrastructure a C- in terms of its reliability. Unfortunately, the wastewater infrastructure scores lower at a D+. And the Southside Wastewater Treatment Plant, like many of the plants built in the same time frame, has reached the end of its expected useful life. Over the past decade, CFPUA has spent more than $12 million repairing and rehabilitating this facility, trying to extend its life. But 3 years ago, we recognized that we could not reasonably expect this current facility to go on indefinitely. We recognized that it was time to replace it and upgrade it. Fortunately for us, our leadership has been planning for this day for decades, purchasing land right next to the existing facility for future growth. Now, these pictures may be a little hard to see. If you were able to come up here and look at it in great detail, and you will get a copy of this presentation if you want to go home, you would see that much of our infrastructure is pitted and eroded. Concrete is falling apart, rusted metal infrastructure and structural supports at our headworks and our clarifiers and our primary treatment. Raw wastewater can be very corrosive. So we have added corrosion controlling chemicals for many years in our wastewater system to try to slow that down. Nevertheless, 50 years of exposure have taken their toll on this facility. Similar deterioration can be observed on the exterior, a very important component of our plant, the anaerobic digesters. When we took this infrastructure out of service recently, to our surprise, when we removed the roof and cover, we discovered that mechanical equipment failures and piping failures had led to significant concrete spalling, exposing the underlying metal wire support for the concrete. And that's not unusual. That's the norm for what we're finding in this facility. Key components such as transfer pumps and diversion structures are degrading at a rapid pace. But what worries us the most is the infrastructure we can't see, the parts of the facility that are normally permanently flooded by wastewater. A wastewater treatment plant is like the beating heart of a wastewater collection system. It collects fluids, cleans fluids, and sends them out. And during major storm events, a lot more flow comes to that plant. So our concern, quite frankly, is a major hurricane may cause this facility to fail before we can replace it. Now, in addition to needing to replace this plant because of its condition and age, we also need, as a community, to prepare for new customers to come into the community, for new treatment capacity, to manage orderly growth. Flows at the north side plant will reach their monthly maximums, the most that they can accept, somewhere around 2030. Let's see. I don't know if you can actually see it here, but there's a little red box. We need to have new capacity to continue orderly growth by 2030, in addition to replacing a plant that needs to be replaced today. Here is an artist's rendering of the plant. This is the older plant, and this is an artist's rendering of what we're going to replace it with. And this will be one of the biggest projects that our community has ever undertaken. The only larger project that I'm aware of is the bridge replacement. Southside will be fully replaced and expanded. It'll be modernized. We will move the wastewater treatment capacity from 12 to 16 million gallons a day. We will move the plant uphill, build it above the 500-year floodplain to decrease the risk of inundation and storm damage through climate change. We'll be adding biological nutrient removal treatment technology, something we already have at Northside, to improve the quality of the effluent that we release to the environment. Our early cost estimates suggest that the cost of this project ranges between $300 and $500 million. We are working very hard to try to bring that down. Our target is $400 million. But once we build it, the new facility actually even be more expensive to operate. Somewhere between 1.5 and 2 times more expensive to operate because of the new treatment technologies. Community benefits, though, are very important here to remember. Not only are we replacing this facility, so we're decreasing the likelihood of it completely failing, and we're avoiding sewer spills. We'll have a much higher quality of water that we'll release into the estuary, where we're boating and fishing. The new facility will have improved technology for regulatory compliance, not just now, but for generations into the future. And the project will allow us to take the old facility offline, and we can get a good look at it and see how much of that might be saved and salvaged for the next generation. And finally, it will support residential, industrial, and business development throughout New Hanover County. Our study suggests that for every dollar we invest in this project, we will generate $1.66 in regional economic output. We're very proud to say that we've received widespread support from community leaders and important community stakeholder groups. I don't know how often that you see the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Cape Fear River Watch folks standing together, but they stand together in support of this project, and we thank them both. We are working very, very hard to manage cost. To date, we've been approved for $175 million in low interest loans. Those are competitive loans, and it's a record for us from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, North Carolina. We value engineered, which means we've cut everything that we can cut out of that project to reduce it by almost $100 million. And we've deferred unrelated capital projects, $80 million in unrelated capital projects. And we continue to go to Washington and go to Raleigh and seek additional funding opportunities to bring down these costs. Nevertheless, the cost of this project is going to have a major impact on our rate structure. Our board has elected to gradually increase rates while challenging its staff to find alternative revenue sources and cut costs everywhere that we can. Our job as staff is to find a way to mitigate future rate increases. The number one goal of my office is to minimize future rate increases. Tools in our toolbox include continued pursuit of our upstream neighbor Chemours for more than $80 million in losses to date. We continue to pursue state and federal grant processes, and we're looking to support orderly growth to grow new revenues. And finally, we're working with community resources like the University of North Carolina at Wilmington Cameron School of Business to continuously identify efficiency and cost of savings opportunities in our current operations and our future operations. I'm pleased to say next week we will host 18 mass MBA students in a capstone project with their professors to come look at key business processes and give us advice on how we might make them better and more cost effective. But if we're not able to bend the curve, we are looking at rate increases over the next 5 years. So my goal is to avoid them if possible, to minimize them as a must. So what's the time frame for this project? Construction work is authorized in a series of events or approvals called notices to proceed, and our contractors received the first one. Early work actually began this month, and the official groundbreaking occurs on November 12th. Project completion is currently anticipated in the timeframe of March 2030, but it's entirely possible, even likely, that it will be later than that because rain events between now and 2030 could delay it. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this critically important project, and we'd be glad to take any questions about it or other CFPUA activities.
Two questions. One, physically, where is it located on the river? And two, does the 400 million cost include raising the existing facility and what will be done with that area?
So let me run back to, if I can. I don't know if I can go back. Let's go back to the slide that shows the facility. Please, let me work that backwards. The 400 million does not include raising the existing facility. It's only for the new facility. And then it is located just south of the ports, just above the intersection of Independence Drive and River Road. Does that sound familiar? Yes.
You had mentioned the problem of stormwater getting into the sanitary sewer system. What, if anything, is the authority doing to separate stormwater from wastewater?
We have a very robust set of projects designed to reduce inflow and infiltration. So inflow is stormwater that gets into the wastewater system during a storm. Infiltration is when groundwater gets in all the time. We've done some amazing work, quite frankly, to reduce inflow and infiltration over the last 17, 18 years. That is in part why CFPUA was created. And we've reduced sanitary sewer overflows, if my memory serves me correct, more than 50%. But there's still work to be done. So yes, we are investing in bending that curve is how I describe it. The reality though is think about 1,162 miles of pipe. Much of that pipe, almost 200 miles of it, is pressure pipe, so we can't physically observe it. We do observe or look at the rest of that pipe and look for repairs and replacement. We have an ongoing contract called Find It, Fix It, FIFI. And anytime we find something that is worthy of expenditure of funds, we fix it. I'd be glad to bring back a presentation to your group at your discretion, offering more details on that investment.
My question is about the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. I understand its budget's been cut about 89%. Can you address how that will affect our community and surrounding communities?
Well, we're fortunate to have secured $175 million before the proposed cuts. And the cuts are proposed in the upcoming federal budget, so they haven't been memorialized. If cuts do come through in the future budget, federal budget, then it'll make it more difficult for us to acquire additional low interest loans. And these are not grants, these are loans, but they're very low interest, and we don't start paying on interest and principal until after the project's built. For those that are financially, in the financial world in this room, you understand what a powerful tool that is by itself.
Do we have a grade for our drinking water?
We actually haven't brought in experts to give us an evaluation of our drinking water distribution system. We have about 1,200 miles of that, very similar in size to the wastewater system. I will say, and I'm very proud of this, and I can say I'm proud of it because I have nothing to do with it, the staff has worked diligently over decades to make sure that our leakage, our water loss, is somewhere between 8 and 12%. Now that sounds like a lot, but the industry regards 15% as good. And there are many communities in this nation that are at 20, 30, and 40%. So we're always chasing the leak, and we always should. But we have done a lot of work over the last 18 years to replace older failing water system lines, especially downtown. You may have noticed one of our projects going on here at 5th Street, for example. I'd rate us better than most.
What are the chances of adding Carolina Beach, and who serves that area south of your current plant?
So between Pleasure Island and our service area is a service area that's both septic and well, and Aqua North Carolina has a very large service area down there, Beau Rivage. If we ever serve, it will be based on conversations between community leaders. That's how the Wrightsville Beach consolidation occurred. I'm very pleased to tell you that when we started those negotiations 3 years ago, we started with a four-way test that was literally written into our rules of engagement. And every negotiation began and ended with the test. And after 2.5 years of it was interesting because you ever merged a business? You ever been part of a business merger? Well, that's what this is. But we successfully met everybody's needs. The town reached its goal. The rate increases that are applied to the town are the same that are applied to everybody else. That was their goal. And we reached our goal. Our customers do not pay for the consolidation. It was a win-win through the four-way test.
I heard you say that the total project cost was 400 million, but you had identified, I guess, 80 million in cuts to the overall price. Wanted to know how or what was cut from the project and how will that impact safety and drinking water quality?
So this is, again, that's a good question. This is on the wastewater side. So we could, if we're thinking about, all right, what are the potential impacts? It's environmental. And that was one of the minimum things we said is we're not going to put our environmental compliance at risk. So we were looking at, I said it's between 300 and 500 million. The price that came in was $571 million. That was a difficult day. We value engineered or removed about $100 million worth of projects, including the biosolids treatment component. We shrank that down quite a bit, which will limit our options in how we might manage and dispose of biosolids. I'm a big believer in working with others. So we've opened conversations with Brunswick County to see if there's opportunities to regionalize biosolids treatment, bring that back on the table. But biosolids treatment was a big part of that. We did look at some safety factors in terms of redundancies. We looked at innovative technologies and found some that were more cost effective than what we had been planning to use. We're a conservative business. We love new technology if it has a 10-year track record. Well, we're going to push that conservatism aside and we're going to embrace new technology that is coming out. And that helps manage costs. But I'm pleased to say that we are meeting our goal of ensuring that the environment's protected and our staff is protected.
So-
Question.
So I can imagine that wastewater is dirtier than stormwater, but I would suspect that stormwater still needs to be treated. So of all of this, how does the stormwater get handled either together with or separately from the wastewater?
Stormwater is separately managed within the city of Wilmington. It's managed by the City of Wilmington Stormwater Department. And outward in the county, it's managed by New Hanover County.
So that's not you.
It's not us. But they do a good job and we think highly of our peers.
All right, thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming and speaking today. It's so great to live in a great city that's thriving, and we need a new bridge. We need a bigger plant and all kinds of other stuff going on. So really appreciate your leadership in that project. Our club has made a donation in your name to Nourish and See to help 2 food insecure children have food for a whole weekend. So we really appreciate you being here.